All right. It is the 24th of October, 2024. This is Gimbalabs Open Spaces. We get together on Thursdays at 14:30 UTC to talk about what we're working on right now and what we're doing next. And that's one small piece of governance, right? Making decisions together about what we're going to work on. And we're trying to practice building some systems that we can use that kind of work efficiently for us. And if they work, hopefully we have something to share with the broader community about ways that we can work together. So what we do is we have a Notion database here. You can now see it on my screen of projects. And these projects have several different states. They might be in the proposal state, which means that we are in the process of defining what we want to do. They might be in the backlog state, which means it's an idea that at least one of us finds compelling, but we haven't yet jumped into really doing the work. We have the community review and consent phase, which is where we decide together on what we're going to do. And this is where we spend most of our time in these meetings, as you'll see in just a minute. And then we have projects that are in progress. So if I open up the list of projects in progress, hopefully we see some familiar stuff right here. The first proposal we ever passed was just to have a process for getting paid Notion accounts for folks. We're almost done delivering the first edition of PPBL 2024, and I have a proposal to bring to the group about how to maintain it. Work on Aiken PBL and Marlowe PBL is ongoing. Catalyst work is ongoing. And as part of this Fund 12 proposal, we agreed to use some of those funds to just maintain these spaces and to run Playground Season 4, which just met for, what, the third time this season, a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So right here, you can see an overview of ongoing work, but we're not going to spend too much time on this today. We recognize this work is in progress, and we're going to start using the last Thursday of every month to review this list. So that's next week. We have October 31st to take a look at what's in progress. We've been refining this table. So last time we got together, for example, we decided to add a few columns, like the budget allocation that you can see right here. So that's the work in progress. In the backlog, there's a couple of things like Cardano Go PBL. I'm excited to work on this when there's time, but I don't have time right now. So that's a great example of something that can be in the backlog. We also have proposal presentations, right? These are, well, the date on that was the 30th, and we don't have Newman here. I'm not going to speculate about what that is, but you can see there might always be some amount of work in our backlog. We've got proposals that are being drafted, and this will usually be our second agenda item. The purpose of these meetings is first to go through those proposals that are ready for community review and consent. And then if there's extra time, we can jump into proposal formation together. So Steve, for example, you mentioned you've got some ideas that might be ready collaboratively to start committing to the page. This is where we could just start drafting a new proposal. We'll see if there's time for that. But before we get there, let's do a review of these proposals that are ready for review together. I mentioned that I have one to bring to the table about maintenance of the Plutus PBL course. And a few weeks ago, I first brought this financial accounting proposal to the group. And I would love to spend a few minutes moving towards consent on this today and starting to see what kind of objections there are. We have the Dandelion Light proposal. We have Emmanuel and the crew's development and smart contract education, the playbook, and some live coding sessions. Yeah, good first issues. This actually connects to this guy right here. And I know Alex is traveling. Now, what I notice about these three, one, 2, 3 is that we've made progress on these and we actually have catalyst proposals in for all of those. So let me just hand it to Emmanuel and Martin. Do you guys have any actions you want to take on these proposals now? Or are we kind of in the waiting stage of seeing how Catalyst goes?
Yeah, I have a demonstration. I think Nelson has seen how it works. Uh, Dandelion Light. I think, yeah, we should now transition to really, uh, how do you call it? Do a lot of marketing. So that's
Yeah,
a tricky bit. I think I
yeah.
want to go to Cardano EU. They have always time for a fireside. Yeah, if people want to join, that would be interesting. Uh, I always struggle in knowing where are the voters, where is the voting power. That would be interesting to know for everybody, maybe.
Mm,
So
great.
sometimes
Yeah,
I have like, wow, this proposal got through, but why? It's like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
It's
Where's
decentralized, so it's all private.
yeah, yeah.
where's the downvotes?
Oh
So
no.
it sounds like maybe there's no action needed on Dandelion Light today. It sounds like you do have a technical demo, which at any time you guys can plan a live coding session to go through that. But it sounds like this is one proposal that would definitely benefit from having not marketing, an approach to marketing. So maybe we can put this general proposal here and start working out some of our collective marketing plans. How would that sound?
Yeah, I think that would be useful to have some best practices for just for everybody.
Great. Would it be okay if we just say that the Dandelion Light proposal is actually in progress at this point? Because you guys put in the proposal to Fund 13. I guess I guess we haven't talked about additional funding for it, so maybe that's where this would come in. Um, so yeah, maybe we could leave this here for now, but let's also get to the general marketing stuff. I can speak for Student Society Playbook. Like this one, for example, no action is needed on it at this moment. Hinson got that one through the door, and really all we need is the marketing part, but we're going to hold on doing any direct work on this over the next few weeks. So this one, let's actually do this. This is Fund 13 proposal. And I'm just going to put it for now in the backlog because so we know it's here and that we can pick it up when it's time. Um, Emmanuel, on your end, how about you in terms of the educational programming? Are there action items that we should discuss today, or are we kind of looking for those funding results to come through?
Yeah, basically, generally, Project Catalyst is like generally uncertain to everybody. It's not excluding anyone. And we've put up the proposal. So, waiting up to the results till January. And I don't know the idea or the general conclusion of Gimbalabs in getting it funded. Um, so so yeah, the thing is, if we are to wait for Project Catalyst, um, it's actually going to be nice and okay. And if it's getting funded from Gimbalabs Treasury, and that's even going to be more better. And then so basically the thing that is concerning the proposal, it's this the funding, which is get because um we'll be resuming in school, like the students in school will be resuming by I think November ending to first week of November. So um so I did bring this like the fund right now, like at the moment. So it will just be very, very easy to just cover up through to 3 months to maybe February. So I think that'll be better. And it's also nice if we get the result of Project Catalyst. So yeah, that's it. And I'd like to ask about the prep class, James, that you requested because the students they've been asking of it, and so so I want to know that will just go through, so they will know I'm just serious about it. So yeah.
Great. So yeah, so your goal is to start this work way before we get the Fund 13 results.
Yeah, yeah, not really a goal, but I would say it's like it would be a better idea to um get it started before then.
Okay. Okay. I know that speaking for myself, I don't have a lot of time to start this work in November and December 2024. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
There's just enough other things going on that I'm not able to put the time that you would need from a facilitator. But if you can
Mm.
find another facilitator from within this team, then I think we could talk about moving this forward before getting Catalyst results. And so what I would say is, one, like we talked about a few weeks ago, I hear you saying that students are interested and they want this to start. Do you have a sign
Mm.
up sheet of the students who are getting into this?
No, not really. I'm presently using my phone right now. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, not really. I don't have a sign up. I would have like shown you some of the chats we went through about
Yeah.
yeah, about their interest. So I actually don't have a sign up sheet, but yeah, yeah, I do. We have I can drop our link here. Like I created a GitHub link for like an organization GitHub link for the members, like the team members. So I'll be dropping the link here right now. So you
Great.
see the list of students on GitHub accounts
Thanks.
that are really interested.
Okay. Good. So you're using GitHub basically to find the students that are interested. And yeah, so I would
Yeah,
say that when you have that list, which it sounds like you do, then we can
yeah.
make a proposal for how much time you need. All right. And that should go directly into this doc. What I see in the details of this proposal is that we want to do 2 to 3 months of teaching. We did talk about trying to launch this mid-semester, but like I said, like personally, I'm just not able at this moment to spend the time. I really want to in
Yeah.
2025, but I have to be realistic about the next 2 months. So if you're
Mm,
able to add details to the timeline so that
mm,
somebody else on this team can say to you, yes, I have the time to
mm,
do that, then we can talk about saying, yeah, okay, here's the budget. We have the people to do it. Let's start as soon as possible. And so your next steps, share that list right here in this document, update the timeline, and then see if you can get somebody to facilitate. And then if you can, great. If you can't, and we have to wait until the first quarter of 2025, then that's just reality, right?
all right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually cool. So yeah. I would work towards it. So I dropped the link. You can check it out. We are
Perfect.
9. Yeah,
Great. So I'm going to add that
yeah.
to the proposal right now. We can say E2. Let's put this under. Okay. This is really good. All right, so we've got that list. You have a place for people to sign up. And like we discussed, your next step, settle that timeline, see if we can get people to do it. And if not, we'll get going when Catalyst comes out.
Yeah, all right. All right.
Cool. Thanks. I'm going to put
Thanks.
this one for now in the proposal stage because we're still making a few of those plans. Whoops. This one. I'm moving it back up here to proposal so you can add those details. And then when you have those details, we can bring it back for consent.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Good deal. Marketing plans. This one is Alex here. I'm going to move this one also to planning or proposal stage because we're waiting. We know that Alex is traveling right now. And when he's back online, we'll go into that one. Good. So I wanted to bring to the team just this initial one, and we have a small crew here today, and I didn't give you guys time to read this in advance. So my goal is not to get to consent in the next few minutes, but just to put it on your radar. And this is an approach, Martin, with the Dandelion Light proposal, or Emmanuel, as you fill in these details. And if you find somebody who's able to get started, you can do it with this proposal. But I wanted to just bring this idea to everybody. The Catalyst proposal that I spent the most of my time writing was this one around community maintenance of the Plutus PBL course. And here's this, the link is right here to the whole proposal on Lido Nation. I'm dropping that in the chat. And so we have this Catalyst proposal called Andamio Governance Smart Contracts and Gimbalabs PBL Governance. Ideally, this gets funded and we can move forward with it. The proposal here that I'd like to bring to this team is whether or not we can start on the proposal. Oh yeah, it is all here. Okay. Whether or not we can start on the first phase of the proposal even before getting Catalyst results. And so I'd like to try to get to consent on this next week, but just to introduce it to everybody, we have a proposal that works on kind of a small level first and then branches out towards system design. The small level that I'm talking about is PPBL 2024 and our recognition that the course needs to be updated and that we want to give people who have been working through the course the chance to start contributing. And so we think about the model of keeping the course up to date as a really nice initial contribution opportunity. I'm excited to explore this model because no matter what kind of work we're doing, people need to be onboarded to that work. And that is an educational experience, right? Show me what's going on at your organization right now and teach me how I can start contributing there. Those onboarding materials are inevitably always going to get out of date, especially in a fast-moving ecosystem like Cardano right here. And so what I'm hoping is that we can start some of this work even without the final decision from Project Catalyst, specifically the first two milestones exactly as they're defined in the Catalyst proposal. By one, gathering a maintainers cohort. The goal is to have 5 people. We already have 3 people who expressed interest. Andrew, who's often here. Caesar, this time is not perfect for him, but he's been jumping into live coding sessions and the open spaces for the last few months. And Lawrence Lay, who wrote the textbook about Cardano and wants to collaborate moving forward on using these materials to build workshops. We would hopefully find 2 more people. And at that point, we will have identified the cohort and we can start the work of just looking at what needs to be updated in the course. Then we could start the work of making those updates. Now, in the Catalyst proposal, what we're asking for is 4,000 ADA for each of those maintainers who are just working on these updates. That's kind of like the upfront budget for managing the immediate outcomes. It's not the whole story. The rest of the story is to build on that experience and talk about what kind of on-chain validators and application interfaces we can build to make it even easier for maintainers to govern a course. That work would still be ahead, and I'm not proposing that we start that without the Catalyst funding. But even without the funding, it would be really cool to clean up the course. And we do have enough to cover this budget right here in the current Gimbalabs treasury, a total of 24K ADA, 4,000 per maintainer, and then the same budget for one person to run project lead and documentation of the process. The experiment here would be that we would be starting to kind of have pre-funding of proposals that we wanted to do, right? There's about 70K ADA in the Gimbalabs treasury right now. So if we spent some of that ADA to start this work, and it did happen to get funded, well, then when that Catalyst proposal is approved, those funds could just replace what we pulled out of the treasury to start early. And if the Catalyst proposal is not approved, what I'm bringing to the table right here is the question for all of you. Is this work worth doing anyway? So that's the idea. I want to refine this a little bit, but I wanted to have a chance just to ask you guys for clarifying questions. What do you think about this proposal, and what questions do you have? Pasha.
I was just curious as to what the prerequisites are to become like a contributor, maintainer.
Excellent. So the soft prerequisite is you're doing the course and you've been participating in some way, right? And so separate from anything we might do on chain, I know, and I would vouch, for example, for Caesar, that he's been working through the course, that he's been asking great questions in Discord and at live coding sessions. And because of that experience so far, I would be really excited to work with him. Now, that's still kind of the word of mouth phase. And one of the things we need to figure out is how much is that word of mouth part worth? Right? Can we rely only on that, or at what point do we decide to have kind of a formal on-chain gating mechanism? And we're building that mechanism right now, right? These will be the first PPBL students who are making on-chain commitments as students in the course. And then we will use those on-chain commitments to unlock the ability to actually get paid for contributing back to it. So it's a chance to practice that system, but it's like a soft rollout of that process that still relies on our ability to know each other and build up trust. Quasar says he's changing devices. So I'll clean this up. I wanted everybody to have a chance to think about this, and I would really love to bring this to the same session a week from today and ask for approval on this right at the end of October so that we can have the last 2 months of the year to start this work. Q, are you here?
I think so.
Gotcha.
It looks like the proposal is for one course, the Plutus PBL. Would the work that's being required for this one course be also a template or guide to work that would be needed for all futures? So there you go. All right.
100%. Yeah. And that would be the key responsibility of this documenter right here. We, in the Catalyst proposal, one of the things we promise following the first 2 milestones is a playbook about our experience, because even though, of course, we do want the PPBL 2024 course to be up to date, that's really not the point of the proposal. The real purpose of this proposal is to show that this model works, and if successful, enable other teams to do the same.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I think it's, I hope people sign up and agree next week or sooner.
And it goes beyond courses too, right? A course is just one example of a resource in the commons. And we know that we haven't yet cracked the code as an ecosystem on how to support the commons. And so by looking at a specific case like this, hopefully we can suggest something viable for other people to try in any publicly shared resource.
Yeah, yeah. Who knew that's the code we were supposed to be cracking? That great encrypted commons that we all talk about. I'm thinking about this and looking at what the European Cardano community is doing with their country hubs, which is their playbook. But it's also a hub. It's, it's what I would call commons birthing zone or ground, if you will. I'm just wondering how to look at the two and see, quote unquote, the common maintenance, the common upkeep, the service.
Your sound is coming in and out. You just got really quiet.
I'm just trying to figure out where the two, what they share in common, whether it's maintaining a class or a course to build a community. It's still a commons project.
Exactly. So yeah, by that's always been the idea of the experiments we're doing here, and we're only just getting into the process of generalizing some things. Some of the patterns from the PBL courses have worked out for other people, but at this point, we really want to take very, very specific chances to try things with that goal of finding the little patterns that work elsewhere. Cool. So I'll bring this one back next week. And also I need to change devices myself. So not going to have time to go through the whole finance proposal, but it's here. I brought this a couple weeks ago and we just haven't had chances to move through it. But Gimbalabs does need to consider like its actual financial standing now that there's more of us working together and pulling in the grant funding from Catalyst. So this proposal is here. I got Alex's objections. I moved those down to risk factors that we're going to have to talk through before this thing can be consented to, as well as a couple of comments. So just recognize that this is here, and same goal. I'd like next week to see if we can move towards consent on this. And I agree, Alex's point here is that focusing on financial accounting may indeed divert resources away from the kind of work that has been the hallmark of Gimbalabs to date. I agree with that, and that's why we haven't done this before, but we are now in a position where if we don't do this work, I would be individually taking on legal and financial risk that I'm just not willing to do without this. Okay, so even though this objection is real and I actually share it, Gimbalabs is not viable, and we can't keep doing what we're doing without getting this part right. So we have to ask those hard questions next week about whether or not we want as a group to take this next step of being accountable to each other, really being able to see these finances and make this an actually viable organization.
I mean, we don't really have much choice, because even though we may not consider ourselves viable, we have a considerable amount of ADA that we manage now because of Catalyst, and we have to be accountable to Catalyst for that, and it's the same process, in my view, to be accountable to ourselves.
That's right. That's right. And we want to do this, I want to maintain that level of accountability that we are used to sharing with each other while upgrading in this way, right? And it ultimately it'll give all of us a chance to have a different amount of skin in the game. Me exponentially less, and everybody else more to make up for that. And that's what we must do if this endeavor is going to continue. A minimal amount, Q. Yep. All right. I'm going to hand the host, Sebastian, over to you and jump in on my phone. And if anybody else wants to share screen and work through some of those proposals, you can do that. And Steve, this could be a good chance, if you want, to start sketching out some ideas.
Okay. Okay, I can share a screen. Well, let me get that. So early this year, February to be imprecise, I was a participant in a DREP workshop in Indianapolis that was hosted by Adam Rush. And that was the first time that I had heard of you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was the first time that I had heard about organizational DREPs. I know it was Adam Dean was there, and Mike Hornan, who I'm pretty sure most of y'all know. And they really sketched that out, so that it was clear and why, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think I even booked a playground and just to throw the topic out as something that Gimbalabs should consider. And we had a good discussion, but we never did anything with it. In the meantime, I haven't really thought about it that much, but for myself, I've been really kind of impressed with our open spaces structure in terms of how we collectively have decided certain things together. And on my way home from Texas, I was driving. It started coming back into my head as I thought about the weekend. And it's, the reason that I'm bringing it up now is because the experience at the Constitutional Workshop made an impression on me because of the impression we clearly make on everybody else in the community. There were a lot of people there that neither James nor I knew, but they knew of what we do at Gimbalabs, and they wanted to talk to us. And they have a lot of respect for us. And, you know, and even among people that I've known for a long time in the community, I've noticed that the respect for Gimbalabs has gone up. And what I notice when I'm, you know, hanging out in a space or anything, and people are talking about DREPs, is that it's, you know, it's still a vague process. You know, nobody's ever done this before. And I believe that we are a part of this community, and, you know, a visible part of that community, and we have a standing in the community. And I kind of feel like part of that is this very nuanced way that we negotiate, being very social in how we deal with one another and the people that we come in contact with, you know, as Gimbalabs community members. But they're also looking for our opinions on things. And I think that I just like talking about trust, but trust is a big topic of conversation, and people want to know that they can trust those who have influence in the community. And it's a very interesting dynamic, you know, the skepticism about some entities in the community, some individuals in the community, and the sheer embracing that people do with certain members in the community. And, you know, like I talk to Quasar about this kind of frequently, and I feel like it's time to think about it again, you know, becoming a DREP as an organization. I've been noodling around on this Cardano governance tools. Becoming a DREP is not overly complicated. It's it does seem to recommend that you have a GitHub account, because if you're a DREP, you have to store your registration information once you've generated it in this process, and then you have to upload it. So like when you go into this process, you know, like you fill out the DREP info, and then they give you information to download to store off chain, and then you re-upload it, you know, as part of your official registration. And that's kind of all simple, you know, it's basically copy and paste. The only thing that's unusual is, you know, they're showing you the example of using GitHub, which is no problem for us. For other people, you know, they would have to do it, you know, who don't have a GitHub account, they would have to do it some other way. I feel like that, you know, if we seriously think that this is a good idea as a group, then, you know, one thing that we should do, and that I've heard other organizations talk about, you know, kind of like they do on the constitutional committees, they'll set up multi-signature validation of how constitutional committee members make a vote. And I kind of think as a best practice, you know, that would be the one thing that we would technically, I feel we should technically consider doing, you know, so that nobody's, you know, it's no good for the community to trust Gimbalabs as an organization when just a guy in Gimbalabs makes the vote, you know. There's kind of a conundrum. So, you know, like I feel like then we should set up some kind of multi-signature validation of however Gimbalabs votes. But that's basically most of my thoughts. I'm really wanted to talk about this, but according to our process, before somebody fills out the proposal template and submits the proposal, then we should have a discussion about it to consider whether or not to writing a formal proposal. I think it does a lot for us to be a DREP. And when I say a lot, it's very unspecific what I mean. Like it could mean anything. It could mean more sources for funding may develop because we would be taking such an active role in the governance process. I think that we would be a safety valve for some people who don't want to abstain on voting, but they don't want to vote for themselves, and nobody else really draws their respect enough to delegate to a DREP. And I think we could pick up a lot of delegation in that way, or some delegation. I don't know what a lot means. When you go through the DREP list, it doesn't feel like very many people, and certainly not very much ADA has been delegated to DREPs. It's not a huge long list. I heard 600 had registered, but when you scroll through the list of active DREPs, it does not seem like 600, not by a long shot. And a lot of that is pretty low levels of ADA voting power. So I don't know. Like there's that part of the group that comprises Gimbalabs that I like because they like being very low key. And this is kind of taking a step out into the community on some level. But it's it's just kind of a question to reconsider, because governance is getting real, and I wanted to know how y'all felt about it.
So I'm in favor of your idea, Steve, but my suggestion would be, instead of using multi-signature wallets, using validators for that. So a DREP can also be a validator instead of just a wallet. I
Okay.
think it would be also funny to implement.
Well,
But
that sounds fun.
I also think Gimbalabs would be a perfect candidate for being a DREP.
All right, I appreciate that. Harsh has given a thumbs up. I don't know if that's because he likes the idea or he likes what Adrian said, or both.
Both. I
Okay.
genuinely think like a DREP from Gimbalabs would do a lot for the Cardano community and also for Gimbalabs. So
Okay.
Steve, one of the things you said right at the end there about how when you've looked at the people who have already delegated to DREPs, it might appear to look like a small amount of total ADA staked. And I think that's a really interesting problem statement for us to work on. And as you connect it to what Adrian said, right, to think about this from a validation perspective, I think we have the opportunity to lead the way in thinking about how decision-making power might be partially disaggregated from the bag you hold, right? And if we could be the DREP that large bag holders delegate to, because they know that there's a group of people making decisions together in this particular way, long term, that's a really compelling opportunity, I think. And connect it to like the maintainer's proposal that I shared a few minutes ago, this would be an example, right? What if we had the validators that allowed the people with a track record of maintenance to actually be deciding how Gimbalabs, the DREP, votes?
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna be going back through some of your live coding sessions because I'm hearing enough about everybody seems to, y'all seem to be thinking about validators differently than I've ever heard before. And this is just something I've picked up in the last couple of weeks. So I'm really curious about that. And I'd be very excited to see that, what Adrian described, built, like I think that's really cool. And I think that's something to really, like James is implying, utilizing that to demonstrate how collective decision-making can be made. Because I'm not, like the other registered DREPs that are collectives, like WADA or whatever. I mean, I'm not hanging out at WADA town halls or meetings or anything like that anymore. So, but it's all kind of vague to me, in any of the groups. And there's not a lot of groups. Most of the DREPs are individuals, it looks like to me. So I just feel like it's a good time to do this. And so I appreciate everybody else agreeing.
Steve, there's a new channel in the Gimbalabs Discord about this very thing, DREP experiments.
Right.
And a guy that Steen introduced me to named Max or Massimo wants to experiment with a few of these things. So he had just asked for an initial conversation. So Adrian Nelson and I met with him last week or the week before, something like that. But if you could just like ping all of us in that channel to say that, you're excited to start refining these ideas from a non-technical perspective, that could almost play like the product definition role. And then Adrian, you and I can jump in and start driving that conversation forward. I know that once there's enough momentum, Mix is going to have plenty to say about it too.
Yeah, I would have thought.
The link to the channel is in the chat.
Kevin, who's they?
Well, I have joined a meeting. Marta was there as well. It was the Constitution Committee workshop 2 months ago, and I met a few people there. And I heard from them that, for example, Thomas, as I mentioned in the chat, that they were making some kind of a Dutch group DREP. And I figured out that they have a GitHub repository. It's called Dutch Rep, but okay, doesn't matter. The link is there, and in their GitHub repo, maybe there are tools to help us as well set up such a group, DREP. I don't know about that validator ID there. That could be a viable solution as well. I don't know technical, but maybe we can contact them. They are also on LinkedIn, and maybe that helps to get the technical stuff understood. So I'm not talking about the decision to do the DREP or not, but this is maybe helping you to make it happen.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Adrian or James, I'm like it's been so long since I've seen Mix talk about his Gladiator suite of smart contracts, and I didn't know, with this different way to look at validators with Plutus v3, has he already changed that kind of group decision making that was described in the original Gladiator contracts? Is that, I'm just kind of curious where all of that is.
He's continuing to build options for that. And so to get everybody kind of up to speed, and he's still very much thinking about it all the time. And the Adamio team has a specific proposal for just looking at the different mechanisms for decision weighting. So he's got a whole list of those. As you know, he has a lot of fun naming those. But the idea here is that with that work that's been going on for a long time and is proven theoretically but lacks application context, we now have the release of Plutus v3, which among the many things it does, it adds some validator type to what was previously available. And
Right.
all of us recognize that, at least, just sketching it out on paper, the ideas are really clear. There are these new validator type that help, by a non just a multi. I don't want to use the term multi-sig because that sometimes that limits the way we're thinking about it, right? But a multiple stakeholder approach to decision making that can be built flexibly, like that's what's possible now. And even in Plutus v2, there are things that we have not fully explored, right? It's been possible since Plutus was initially released to have similar mechanisms for how stake delegation is decided, right? And how those awards are collected and that kind of thing. We just haven't prioritized that. So this also pulls that work stream in.
Well, this was my biggest concern really about suggesting this, because, you're all busy already, and I just didn't know how much would actually have to be, created fresh to be the most modern communal decision-making process. So, but it sounds like you all are kind of would look forward to this kind of task. So do you really think it would take a lot of time?
It'll definitely take time, but this is, I think, one of the things we're getting better and better at is proposing work that we knew we wanted to do eventually anyway. And this has always been a goal, right? The reason that we've been doing education and treasury management the way we have on Andamio is because we knew that we were going to get to this point where we extend those conversations to governance.
Okay, well, I will say something in that DREP channel to get a conversation going. And what were you suggesting? Just calling everybody, say, hey, let's talk about, setting.
Well, yeah, that's a place to start, right? But always naming the problem as you see it is even better than saying, let's talk about it, right? Give people a strongly opinionated view of how you see the opportunity so that they can either agree with you or argue with you. And now we're moving towards actually defining a real solution. And I think that's what we have the opportunity to do. We have long known that this is work we want to start, but the way the work gets done is by defining the very specific thing that we want to do first. And I think we're very close to being able to name that thing.
Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate the feedback. Does anybody else want to talk about it a little bit? I don't know what else I have to say about it. We have 27 minutes.
Yeah, one
Jose got his
second.
hand up.
Kind of make sure there's no reverb going by here. Starting to talk about it's fantastic. I think you should be doing it and exploring it. I know there's several groups of people that I speak to and have spoken to that all wanted to join a multi-member DREP. They just aren't technical enough to do it. So if you're looking for a business opportunity, that's there. I think people will pay for people to set that up. Absolutely. Especially from a trusted group.
What do you think? $49.95 or $99.95? What should we sell this for?
Honestly, it's $500 to register as a DREP. Whatever, man. Like 50 or 100. Like how many seats do they want? Well, what are the stipulations? Do $10 a seat. So they want 5 people, need 3 out of 5 to sign it for it to pass.
All right. Well, I don't think we should sell it. I mean, we're not even selling the real work of PBL courses, so why should we sell this? But that's just my thought.
Well, how about we find a way to let people pay for stuff so people get used to spending money and not expecting 4 years of goodwill and volunteerism to continue for another 4 years. Like, I mean, I think it's okay to list services. Look at some of the other entities and businesses or projects that do. They may not have a list of everything that they do, but I think there is a call for a quote option. And man, I mean, I think right now is the time to. It's now or kind of like never as far as the experimentation phase of it, and getting more people to talk about it. Because right now in Intersect Discord, there's a stakeholder group within the civics committee to help DREPs convince or talk to their delegates and the community to agree upon an incentive structure for DREPs and the Constitutional Committee. This is within Intersect. That's a special group there. And then in the Budget Committee, there's another DREP channel to help educate DREPs on what they're supposed to do or not do. So, like, there's people throwing stuff at the DREP topic,
Mhm.
And I don't see many people picking it up. I know that it's been dropped inside of Intersect enough by the different committees and groups that were supposed to be taking it that they've appointed new people in charge of the DREP conversation. So,
Adrian, let me segue from that, Quasar. Thanks, I appreciate those thoughts, and I'm curious, Adrian. Like if we're collectively voting through validators, and we've constructed that method of doing so, is the way that you would build that, is that open-ended? It could be as many people signing it as you wanted, or as few? Would like if we were to actually, as Quasar suggested, sell this or offer it to others, would there always be a need to customize it, or would it just kind of be easy?
Yeah, all of that is discussable. So I could also imagine, I think Mix would also be in favor of it, that you can select through some drop-down menu different governance structures, how your DREP then votes. So that you have 5 different DREPs, and each of that is using a different governance process.
Right. Okay. Well, that's cool.
going with a few templates, I think, would be a great idea. A few multi-sig templates, and then maybe a few validator templates. But again, I have no idea what it takes to do that, so I can't volunteer anyone else's time. Mesh has been advertising on Twitter that they have something that you can download to set up a DREP website. I was looking for it a moment ago. I'll go back in and look for it if nobody's seen it. But that's another thing where, guess what, man? A lot of DREPs, half the DREPs or 60% of the DREPs aren't stake pool operators. And they're probably not that fucking technical. Pardon my, this is pay-per-view, so I can cuss. Pardon my language. I apologize. They need this stuff. They'd love to do it. Nobody has the time. And some of these DREPs do have the funds, I would say. So it'd be cool to see it done in Gimbalabs and then to continue to offer it and see what it can go into. I mean, I see it as one of the true business opportunity all on its own, really.
Yeah, okay.
And here's my approach to being a D-Rep, or what I would do it if I could join in. There would be 2 people that were focused on marketing and bringing in new ADA, 2 people that were highly technical, and 2 people that were current events. Because what's the point of being a D-Rep if we're not bringing in ADA from the exchanges? If we're all fighting over the same ADA that's already with stateful networks, then we're all looking inward, and I don't think that's going to work for the Constitution and what we're trying to build.
But it's a very uneven process. There are actually 3 governance proposals up. The most recent one is the one to increase K. And when you I'm gonna show you guys this because I think it's really weird. Oh, I go up here. Governance actions, view governance actions. They're showing 1 governance action, right? And that's the K parameter. I wants to increase it. And you can see over here, there's D-Reps have voted on it. SBOs have voted on it. The Constitutional Committee has not voted on it. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of no's. But what caught my eye was this was submitted the 11th of October. But if I go to the proposals, there are 3 proposals up there. There's another one on the 6th of October that was submitted on the 6th to mandate 1% of the annual Cardano budget for universal basic income. Got quite a few comments. And there's one enhancing Cardano governments addressing the 100K to 100,000 ADA deposit. And when you click on their details, no votes, just comments. You know, same with this one. No votes, just comments. And, you know, why is that? Right? You know, like there's no indication on the GovTools website why they have voted on the 1, which is obviously a big eye grabber. You know, increasing K has always been a hot topic. But these other 2 proposals, they put up their 100,000 ADA and nobody's bothered to cast a vote. It's, you know, like, I'm just pointing out this is an evolving process. You know, like just because it's possible to submit a proposal doesn't mean that they have the kinks ironed out. It's full of a lot of vagary. Nelson, you had your hand up. Did you want to have a comment?
No, I just had a question, a technical question. Like, so you register as a D-Rep and people delegate to you. You still have the option for you to change your delegation to someone else. At that time,
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, the people who have delegated you, those delegations come to the person you are now changing to, delegate instead of being a D-Rep yourself, or are like those delegations, they go away. Yeah. I wanted to ask if anyone knows about it. Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, it happens immediately, although it may, you know, may have that 5-day epoch, you know, before it's actually enacted. I think is the way it goes.
I think it's 1 epoch but I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But those
pretty cool.
delegations go away, or do they come with, you like you registered to be a direct, now you're delegating to someone else? Does the people who already delegated to you come along, or now the people are left, without any
Well,
delegation?
I don't know, it sounds like what you're describing is a D-Rep delegating to somebody else, like you would retire as a D-Rep if you didn't want to do that anymore. And then your D-Rep account wouldn't be available to be delegated to.
Okay, yeah, that might make sense.
Yeah, and there's already quite a few D-Reps that have retired. Like if you go to, there's 3 different parts to that list. Active and retired, and there are a lot of them that have some kind of failure. I don't know. However they registered didn't work correctly, and there's quite a few of those people.
Yeah, and yeah, I had a comment to your proposal for Gimbalabs. Like we talked about how the validator implementation is going to take time and stuff. Like we obviously need effort, and you obviously talked about the other side of the story that it is a good time to join the governance, and it might open up Gimbalabs for other opportunities. So I was going to ask if maybe not waiting for the validators and like going for a simpler route, maybe the multi-sig one, maybe majority vote wins, something like that, is implemented and ran in Gimbalabs. Do you imagine people will object from starting there? Like if we start doing that, then my idea is that people would be like, okay, this is absurd. Let's, make it better and have more, opinions about it, so that we talk a lot more about it. My idea is that, do you see any upsides in getting started sooner in that easier way, and people having
My concern would be that if you then implement the validators, most people would not recognize and still delegate to the old one.
So then my prior question comes into picture, right? If we were using the multi-sig, either we deregister it, or either we delegate that multi-sig account to the new validator.
So no, I think the delegated voting power does not move if you delegate as D-Rep to someone else. Because you are still a D-Rep, but you delegated your own ADA in that wallet to the other D-Rep.
So it would be a conscious decision of Gimbalabs community that we want to migrate to the validator, so we are going to deregister as a D-Rep for the multi-sig account. Then like everyone has to, right?
So it would be, yeah, you would.
I'm not sure. I could talk to Adam Ross about that, whenever he settles down from the summit. I'm not sure that we would have to deregister and then re-register as a D-Rep. That may not be necessary, because really the validation part is all Gimbalabs side. It's not.
No, the thing is, what you do, you delegate your staking part of the address to a D. So if you first have a multi-sig D-Rep, you have a different script staking hash as if you would have with a validator. So
I see what
every
you're saying.
time you change the D-Rep hash, all the people who delegated the voting power have to delegate the voting power again to the new staking hash.
So yeah, I think we need a communication path there. Like we need an outreach method that, okay, we are like Gimbalabs is changing to this D-Rep ID, new D-Rep ID. The older one is not going to be valid. I think that's a communication.
Nelson, I see what you mean, but maybe we just start with a simple validator. So if I understand everything correctly and investigated correctly, then you just can start with a simple always succeed DREP script. And then if
Yeah.
we use a token that is allowed to do that decision, we can just move that token to the new validator where new logic is.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. Nelson, there are like many, 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 many millions of ADA staked to retired stake pools. And it doesn't matter how people talk about it, that ADA never gets redelegated. And so like that's why I wouldn't want to start under one DREP address and then retire it and go to another one, because people don't pay attention.
Yeah, I think what Adrian just said makes sense because
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
then I
well,
think we can
go ahead.
yeah, but then like if that's the case, then we can start right away, right? That's what I was saying.
Maybe we
I-
use the Gimbalabs proposal structure for that and first write a proposal for that.
Well, I'll go ahead and make some provocative statement in that DREP channel on the Discord, like James suggested, and we'll see what kind of feedback we get over the next few days. But anytime that you feel like showing me what you're talking about, Adrian, I'd love to see it. I mean, but we could do it, at any one of these regular meetings.
Yeah, Steve, can we start a Notion document? I think I would like to contribute on that document,
Okay.
Let's
All right.
talk about it.
I started to start one, and then I read the guidelines on making a proposal, and it said to talk to the group about it. So I thought, well, I'll talk to the group about it because I don't have that much to say in the document yet. But yeah, we can do that. I think Kevin brings up an interesting point. On a particular level, Kevin, all decisions are unpopular with somebody in Cardano. So like I don't know, and I think people have learned to accept that, like with the K, increasing K, the ecumenically minded want a big K number, and the people who are concerned about cash flow do not. And that will always be that way. And, we've kind of learned to accept one another on that level. So I think education is political, right? And I think what we do at Gimbalabs is insist on education being a part of the larger community. And, if we don't, then the DeFi and the other low-hanging fruit for making money in crypto will rule. And, that's the nice thing about Cardano is it is possible because of the nature of the Cardano community to make education really prominent and something to take pride in. So I don't, it doesn't make me shy, that your question. I think I think you got to stand for some stuff. I think you have to stand up and be counted as, being who you are, like we are. This is who we are.
I think there are also really nice opportunities. Something like if you have completed the first 3 modules of the PBL course, then you're allowed to also have a say in the voting process of our DREP. Something like that.
Absolutely. This is a great way to bring people new into the community.
That would also, I think that would also collect some trust from other people if they see not everyone can vote, only people who know a little bit about Plutus.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay. I will do both things. Go ahead.
I just want to say, certainly that what Adrian is saying can provide more credibility to the Gimbalabs as voter, right?
Yeah.
Because our decisions can be made on top of concrete knowledge of the technology and the implications. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice
No,
observation.
it really is. It really is. And it may trickle down and actually help the Gimbalabs stake pool. And we can be one of those people, Quasar, SPOs that are also DREPs. Hanging with the big boys.
It could also be that if you do this and you vote every time, that you have a track record of what you have voted on from the past to many years onwards. And maybe there will be a technology in the future setup where you allow anyone to simulate the history of some votes, that you can see, okay, which DREP matched with your way of, with your decision preference. And maybe they align to certain DREPs that voted in a certain way in the past. And then that creates a movement where some delegators will come to you, for example, in that way. Because now it's a bit like the K parameter is undefined. That's like how many SPOs existed in the beginning. You see the same thing as the amount of DREPs, like 5 or 6 per day are created. By in a year or two, there will probably be 3,000. So I think for a marketing perspective as well, it's okay to be a DREP as Gimbalabs, but be aware that it takes a lot of work to study every question. And are we willing to do that? And can we do that well? And in the case of delegating your votes, anyone can add to Gimbalabs or not. So, it's whatever.
I'm pretty sure that technology will exist in future. I can also imagine that AI will help you, so that you just have some questions, and then the AI says you, this DREP would fit to you. And I think, sure, it is a lot of work, but I think we are able to do that. Especially if I think of Playground and some similar space, just to discuss the different actions currently on the chain.
It is, I mean, it is going to require conversation to come to a decision, right? I mean, like I can imagine that when a budget's actually proposed, I'm hoping more than one budget is going to be proposed and not just whatever Intersect comes up with. But that's probably going to be contentious, and we'll have to find our way to have our internal discussions about that, as well as get involved in the external conversations on some level. Because I feel strongly that we are valid, as a group, and everybody that's involved in Gimbalabs is valid as individuals. To demonstrate that, you have to get out there and talk to people. So we're almost out of time. You want to wrap it up, Sebastian?
Yeah, we are at the top of the hour. So some conclusions or next steps to take? Maybe
I'll start a proposal about this in Notion, and then I'll drop a few sentences in the DREP channel and see if we can get a conversation going there, asynchronously through the week, and see what we come up with to help refine the written proposal.
Fantastic.
Okay,
guys.
Actually, I took the pleasure to start the document. I put it in the chat. Steve, let's start.
Oh, cool. Thanks. All right.
Right. Final words, Tim?
All right. I guess we got to get on with the rest of our lives.
Hey. Thanks. Have a good life, man.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Adrian.
Okay.
See you guys.
See you guys.